What do you see when you look at these images? You see a face. But why do we see faces in things? I mean, even something as simple as a smiley face, which is just two dots and a curved line, why does this look and feel like a face? Pareidolia, which is the tendency to perceive meaningful interpretations such as animals, faces, or objects, even when there is none, might give us a clue as to why we see faces in everything. It's easy to understand that humans perceive faces, whether that's from pattern-seeking behavior or being a social creature. But is this ability an innate feature or is it learned? Well, there's actually an interesting study that shows the signs of pareidolia in babies. I'll link this study in the description, but here's the short summary of it. They tested 3 different age groups of babies, those being 8 months, 10 months, and 12 months old. Each baby was sitting on the lap of a parent in a quiet, dark room. There's an LCD display that showed 2 figures that looked like this. One was supposed to represent an upright figure, the other an inverted figure. The reasoning behind this figure is that the simplicity takes away other variables to account for, such as color or a shape that uniquely resembles a human. They also added an extra feature as a distractor, and it's important to know where babies focus on, specifically the mouth. Now, why the mouth? Because the researchers tested beforehand, they had a still image of an actor with a monologue playing and found that the babies looked at the mouth longer than any other feature. So the researchers set up an eye tracker and played a 400 Hz tone for half the duration from the direction of the figure. And these are the results that followed. The 10 and 12 months showed a greater change ratio or longer duration towards the mouth compared to any other part. Now, this suggests that humans have the tendency to see faces in things, even as young as 10 months old. But it gets more interesting when we dive deeper. There is another study that looked to see the perceived age, gender, and emotional expression in inanimate objects. This time, with a bunch of pareidolia images, and of course, whether they see a face or not. The results that they found were very interesting. First of all, there were 3,815 participants, where 16,070 were male, 16,076 were female, 18 other, and 110 gave no answer. But the interesting thing was that the majority of the perceived age in the pareidolia images were between 0 to 10 years old. What's more shocking is that the majority of the perceived gender in the pareidolia images were heavily skewed male. Now, the researchers understandably thought of potential biases in the pareidolia images, like color or the object, so they did the same test in a grayscale variation, but the results were the same. The researchers then suspected the potential bias that if the gender was ambiguous, maybe male was chosen. So what they did is that they morphed male and female human faces to create an ambiguous face. But in this test, the face was perceived as female more than male. Of course, there could be other variables not taken into account, such as language and culture. But I want to talk specifically about digital culture. Anybody who uses digital tech can see that this is a face, even if it's on its side. But notice how it feels almost weird to see it like this. The bias of reading text from left to right, as well as being used to seeing the smiley face from eye to mouth, causes the lack of familiarity. Like, imagine if someone sent you a text with this face. There are other examples too, such as this character, which is just a letter in Japanese, but looks like a tilted smiley face. And it's interesting to see these evolve into the modern emoji today. Wait, I think everything makes sense now. Humans have an innate tendency to see faces in things. Those faces are then drawn or expressed in some way, and it evolves over time, some being simplified and others culturally specific. Here's some speculation I have with this idea. For example, when you look at ancient Egyptian art, they had a tendency to draw people with a side profile. That was what seemed to be culturally common. If ancient Egyptians had an equivalent to the smiley face with simple lines and shapes, perhaps it might have looked like this. Or how about the ancient people of Easter Island? Perhaps they found a rock or a tree that resembled the iconic face.